Let's get started with the pre-flight. When you're walking up to the jet, you first want to check the tail number and the forms. The number that's on the forms should match the number that's on the tail. Next, check that you have two fuel cards. You should have a gray one, and you should also have a white one. Following that, check the pins. You should have 3 pins, one for each gear. Now it's time to check the forms. Take them out of the baggage compartment and open to the 781Hs. Here you should see the pre-flights and through-flights. The pre-flight should have been done within the last 48 hours, and there should be a through-flight completed after each flight of the day. You can see this jet has only flown once today. Moving down one section, you see the status of the jet. Here we are looking for red slashes, dashes, or X's. More importantly, we are only looking at the last entry, which is a red slash in block 4. Look directly to the right and look for a number corresponding to the last block, and make sure there's an exceptional release signature there. If at any time you see a red X in the last entry, then do not take the jet. The jet is actually grounded. Moving down one section, you should see the total airframe time. Take note of any extra time the jet has flown today, and we will reference this later. Turning the page, we will check the fuel. Make sure it's been serviced to 1,100 pounds, in this case block number 6, and then we'll look down one section and make sure block number 6 is also signed off in the signature section. Next, we will turn to the 781 alphas. Here you will look for any recurring inspections first. If there's any recurring inspections, it will most likely show up as a red slash with a typed up discrepancy and no corrective action. We will look for the summary page later to check those. Moving down, we can see a tire pressure check. There should be a tire pressure check done at the beginning of every single day, so check the date and also check the time. Tire pressure checks are good for 6 hours until the jet has flown. If the jet has flown, then it's good for the rest of the day. Even though you can see a red line at the bottom of the page in this case, we want to turn the page and make sure there's no any additional write-ups. In this case, you can see that there's a write-up that maintenance personnel have put in there saying that the left main gear tire is worn beyond the limit. So they replaced that and then added in a new red line to signify the end of the forms in the 781 alphas. Next, we will turn to the upcoming inspection page. Using the time from before, so if we turn back to that page, we can note the total airframe time plus any additional time from the flights that day. Using that time, we can check and see if any of these upcoming inspections are overdue. If the next inspection time is past the current airframe time, then there should be a recurring inspection write-up in the 781 alphas. If it looks like you're going to overfly that inspection time, then you can overfly it by usually 10%. Some inspections are scheduled by date, so check the next date for that inspection and make sure it's not past the current day's date. If you turn the page, you'll see any long-term inspections. Be sure to check the grounding date and make sure that that date has not already passed. Last but not least, if you turn the page one last time, you'll see the total airframe time. Just make sure that that airframe time matches the time that we checked before. That completes checking the forms. Now it's time for the over-the-rail check. Use the handhold or the rail to support yourself as you step up onto the wing. Then put all of your equipment in one location to set up your cockpit. You can take your helmet out of its bag and put it on top of the glare shield. Make sure you take the visor cover off before you put it on. Roll up the bag and store it somewhere where it's not going to be in the way. Next, you can take some pubs out of the pubs bag so it'll make it thinner. You can put these in the pub storage areas on the side of the cockpit. Take the pubs bag and stow it in a position where it will not be in the way. You can store your IFG on the rail, just be sure not to put anything on the canopy glass. Start by checking the brake reservoir. You should see a green bar. Then move down, check the circuit breakers, make sure the CFIS is in. Check the PCL for slippage. Push the PCL to the max stop with slight pressure. Increase the pressure and ensure the PCL does not move. Bring the PCL to the idle stop with slight pressure, then increase pressure and again ensure the PCL does not move. Finally, lift up on the cutoff gate to push the PCL to the off position again. And check that all of the lights are off. Check the gear handle and emergency landing gear handle and make sure they're stowed. Do an overall check of the front of the cockpit. Make sure that the starter and ignition switches are both in norm. Then make sure that your evap blower is off and that your environmental control system is set up properly. Make sure that your O-bogs is off, and then check the CFIS. Finally, make sure that your standby attitude indicator is caged and locked. Next, we can check the seat. Start with the belts. Make sure they're not frayed, make sure they're not tangled, and also make sure that they are working properly. Next, make sure your ejection seat pin is in and that the handle is not frayed or cut. Check that the shoulder strap retention system is operating normally. Check that the CFIS attachment bolt is in, the PERD plunger is in, and that the emergency oxygen pressure is correct. Once you are finished checking the seat, it's time to make the call out. 1 pin in, 1 pin out, off, down, normal, evap blowers off, O-bogs off, caged and locked, seat, CFIS, and breakers good. Now it's time for the walk around. We're going to start by checking the flaps on the left wing. Following that, we're going to look underneath and check the gear on the left side. With the gear, we're looking for no hydraulic leaks, no external damage, the tire condition, no wheel damage, and also the brake wear indicator. The indicator should be protruding past the bolt. When checking tire condition, you want to make sure that you see no red cords. If you look closely underneath the wing, you'll see these red circles. Those are the fuel drains. Make sure that the fuel drains are clear and there's no obstructions. Next, check the condition of the aileron and that it moves freely. There should be 4 static wicks. Also make sure that these are not frayed or loose. Check the position, navigation, and anti-collision strobe lights. Next, check that the AOA vane moves freely and that the fuel filler cap is flush with the wing. Moving to the underside of the wing, you want to check the pitot tube and make sure it's not obstructed by anything. Check the overall condition of the wing, and then the front side of the left main gear. Also, while you're down here, check the landing light. When checking the main strut, you should see a minimum of 2 inches. Next, move to the single point refueling door. Open it, and the first thing we're going to check is the pre-check valves. Make sure they're down. Next, the refueling cap. Verify that it's secure. Check the fuel filter indicator, check that it's in, and check the maintenance fuel shutoff valve. Make sure it is in line with the fuel line. As with any open compartment, before flying you want to close it and make sure that all latches are latched properly. Next, move down to the nose gear. Make sure that there are no hydraulic leaks, no external damage, check the tire condition, and check the strut extension. You should see a minimum of 2.5 inches showing. When checking the nose gear compartment, first you want to check the doors, make sure there's no damage. Then check the nose gear, make sure there's no damage to that. Check the nose gear spring as well as the connections to the nose gear. Make sure they are intact. When looking inside the engine compartment, check that the oil filler cap is secure, all of the hot battery bus circuit breakers are in, and check the battery service life. Also, you want to check the overall general condition. Once finished inside the engine compartment, you want to shut the door and latch all latches appropriately. Check the inertial separator duct and make sure it's clear of any obstacles. Also check any other intakes and make sure they are clear as well. Check the propeller next, each blade, and make sure that it spins freely. Then look inside the main engine intake and make sure there is nothing there. Underneath that you can see the oil cooler intake. Make sure that is clear of obstacles as well. Check the exhaust stacks, followed by the maintenance access door. Make sure that the access door and all latches are latched appropriately. Make sure that the inertial separator on the other side of the cowling and the fresh air intake are both clear. Next, check the jack pad. Make sure that it's flush, secure, and pinned. We'll move over to the right wing, Check the right main gear as well as the taxi light, looking for the same things we looked for before. No red cords, no damage, good brake indicator, and good strut extension. Check the overall condition of the right wing, as well as the fuel filler cap, that is flush and secure. Check the pitot tube. Also check the lights. Check that there are 4 static wicks on the right aileron, as well as free rotation. Check the back side of the right main gear. Check the flaps on the right side, followed by the CFIS door. Make sure the CFIS door opens and the pin is out. Close the CFIS door afterwards. Then look at the canopy, make sure the overall condition is good. Following that, move to the hydraulic reservoir. Check that it is full and serviced. You should see a green bar inside the green area labeled full AD, accumulator discharged, or full AC, accumulator charged. Close the door, latch all the latches, and make sure to secure. Look underneath the aircraft and look at the speed brake as well as the antennas and check the condition of both. Check that all other doors are latched properly. Also check the vents. Make sure the vents are clear of any obstacles. Following that, check the static ports. Make sure they are clear. Check that the tail fin is not damaged, and check the vertical and horizontal stabilizers. You should see 3 static wicks on each side of the horizontal stabilizer, as well as 3 static wicks on the top of the vertical stabilizer. Look underneath the horizontal stabilizer, make sure that all cords and cables are connected properly. Look on the left side of the vertical stabilizer and check that the bolt is in to the rudder trim rod. Finally, move to the left side of the aircraft. Check the overall condition as well as the static ports. Make sure that the baggage area is closed. Check the vents. And check the CFIS door. Open it, just like before, check that there are no pins, and then close the door. Latch it properly. Before you get into the aircraft, it's always a good idea to take a step away from the aircraft and make sure that everything looks right. Now it's time to get strapped into the jet. Climb over the rail after moving the belt out of the way. Sit in the seat, making sure the ejection handle is between your legs and accessible to your hands. And then start to clip in. You can move belts out of the way and hoses out of the way to make this easier. You can start with the leg straps. Make sure you connect both leg straps right above your boot and make sure that the buckle is on the inside of your leg. Next, connect the seat kit and then the G-suit hose. Connect the lap belt, tighten the straps, and then connect the oxygen hoses. Make sure you connect both the main and the emergency hoses. Connect both shoulder straps, making sure they are both secure. Then put on your helmet. Make sure you connect the chin strap. Put the hose into the Crew 60 and connect the comm cord. Check the anti-suffocation valve by taking a few breaths in and out. Now make the call out. Legs, lap, seat kit, shoulders, harness, hoses, helmet, all strapped in by mask checks. Next, it's time to turn on the battery. Make sure the area is clear and call out "Prop clear" before flipping the switch. Acknowledge the master warning and master caution so the lights go out. And then adjust your seat. Adjust it so you can see the light receptors right underneath the glare shield. Next, adjust your rudder pedals. Use the rotating knob between your legs to bring them forward or aft. Make sure your feet and knees are clear. Make sure the area around the aircraft is clear. Since there is somebody by the wing, we will wait. Make the call out, feet and knees clear, before checking the flight controls. Once the area is clear, bring the control stick aft and forward and to the left and right. Check the rudder pedals and make sure the rudder moves appropriately. Check the ailerons and make sure they move with the control stick. Make the call out, my flight controls check free and clear. Next, check the lamps. Make sure you look at your FDR lights, your gear lights, your nozzle steering and speed brake lights, your master warning, caution, and fire lights, and your warning panel lights. Make the call out, my lamps check good. Then check the audio overspeed and landing gear. Check the AOA low. You should see the AOA indicator move to the green area, and you should see an amber donut. Next, test the AOA high switch. You should get the stick shaker. The AOA indicator should move to 18 units, or the red bar, and you should see a green chevron. When checking the fire system, make sure you check both loops individually. Make the call out Fire 1, Fire 2. Next, make sure your lights are off and that the trim disconnect switch is in norm. Now it's time to check your trim. Check the aileron trim left and right, the elevator trim up and down, and then the rudder trim located on the PCL left and right. Make sure you have 2 in the green and that your rudder trim is out of the green. Make the call out, my trim disconnect switch is in norm, my trim checks 2 in the green. Check that the landing gear handle is down, the emergency landing gear handle is stowed, your GPS is powered on, your clock is set, and that your accelerometer is reset. Set your UHF and VHF audio panel and pull out the nav knob. Next, check your standby instruments and make sure the ELT is in the arm position. Make sure your NACWIS is off, or your TAS is in the standby position, and then make sure the AHRS is slaved. Also, reset the parking brake. To do this, release the handle, pump up the brakes, then reset the handle. Check and make sure all of your switches are in the appropriate positions, based on the checklist and as you see here. When you get to the probe's anti-ice switch, turn it on, make sure you get a light, anti-ice, and also make sure you have an amp draw. Next, when you get to the boost pump switch, turn it on, make sure you have a boost pump light, and that you also have an amp draw. Turn the probe's anti-ice switch off and the boost pump back to arm. After checking all of the switches on the right-hand side, make sure you make the call out, generators off. Now make the call out, visor down, rail clear, pin box closed. Now close the canopy. And make sure it latches all the way. Once the canopy is closed, check the latch. Pull up on the unlock latch and ensure that the canopy light illuminates. Release the latch, then pull gently back on the handle to ensure the canopy will not open. Make the call out, canopy closed and latched, lights out. PCL, start ready. Any collision nav lights, on. No PMU status or fail lights. Start ready light, still on. Voltage, check. Temperature, check. Prop clear, crew chief, fire bottle, no oxygen or refueling within 50 feet. Ready to start. Starter switch, auto, reset. During the engine start, you should look for a voltage drop, hydraulic pressure increase, fuel flow increase, and then the ITT to increase. Following the ITT increase and the N1 increase, you should start to see the oil pressure start to increase. Make sure the start ready light remains illuminated. Make sure the ITT is not going too high. Continue to monitor the engine instruments as the engine starts. Once the N1 reaches 60%, advance the PCL 2 clicks and then into the idle position. Make sure the fuel pressure light, the ignition select light, and the hydraulic pressure light go out. Generator switch on. Bleed air inflow switch, norm, evap blower, as required, air conditioner, as required. Avionics master switch, on. Oxygen mask, on and secure. OBOGs, on, normal, normal, good blinker. Check the max and emergency concentration and pressure levels. NACWIS, on, or TAS, on, put in normal position, and test the range. Test the TAS by moving the switch down to the test position. Once you hear an audible TAS system test OK, move the TAS switch back to standby. Standby attitude, uncaged and adjusted. G-suit, test. Make sure you feel pressure in the G-suit and that it inflates properly. G-suit tests good. Speed brake, check. Speed brake, lights on. Flaps, set to landing. Flaps, landing. Speed brake, lights out. Flaps, set to takeoff. Flaps, takeoff. Speed brake, lights out. Speed brake will not extend. Trim aid switch, on. GPS, program and set. Make sure that the database is current by checking the date. Set up the GPS as per local directives. Go to the mode page to set the CDI sensitivity. Go to the flight plan page to load the flight plan you want to use. Go to the status page, page 2, to check your RAIM and FDE. Finally, set the GPS in Super Nav 5 by going to Nav 5 on both sides. Set up the RMU as required. Look at any messages applicable to the system. Make sure the transponder is in standby. Pull out the nav knob to listen to ATIS. Have a pencil and paper ready to copy it down.
Columbus Air Force Base Information Alpha, time now 1355 Zulu, winds 310 at 10 knots, 7 statute miles, sky conditions clear. Altimeter 3028, wing flying status unrestricted. Tower controls runway 31 center and 31 right. Expect ILS runway 31 center. Advise on initial contact, you have information Alpha.
Check the flight instruments and set the current altimeter in the primary and standby ADIs. Make sure the altitudes that are displayed after setting the altimeters are within 75 feet of each other. Make the call out. In this case, my flight instruments check 3028 set twice, showing 220 over 200. Verify that your seat pin is in. Then clear the warning panel. In this case, you can see a fuel balance light. To reset this, take the fuel balance switch, put it in the manual reset position, and back to the auto position. Make the call out, pins in, panels clear, confirm ISS solo. Make sure the UHF radio is tuned to clearance delivery frequency and make your first radio call. Again, have a pencil and paper ready to copy down your clearance.
Clearance delivery, Blaze 1, Bengal, request clearance.
Blaze 1 cleared, Bengal, squawk 4226.
4226 Blaze 1.
After you receive your clearance, change the UHF radio to ground control frequency. And change your squawk. Now make your radio call to ground and get ready to taxi.
Columbus ground, Blaze 1, taxi with Alpha.
Blaze 1, taxi to runway 31 left via Juliet.
Blaze 1, 31 left via Juliet.